Thank you, Chairman Durbin, and thank you, Senator Whitehouse, for your persistent engagement on the question of whether or not the tip line in the investigation to the allegations of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford was appropriately handled or not. I continue to join you in asking for some follow-up on our letters of the last few years. Mr. Horowitz, if I might, I think this is an almost textbook demonstration of the positive role that an inspector general can play. And broadly speaking, Director Wray, I appreciate your responses as the director to the testimony and to the recommendations. But I do want to make sure that we've covered a couple of things. Just many of my colleagues have already covered topics that I wanted to, but one of the talented athletes and survivors who testified to us today was very pointed, Ms. Allie Raceman, in saying that she believes there hasn't been a thorough, factual, independent investigation. And I know Senator Blumenthal, who's an extremely capable senator and attorney and is quite experienced in investigations. He might speak to that. He and Senator Moran have conducted one. But my impression from what she had said and what I've read is that their concern is that USA Gymnastics and the Olympic Committee have thrown a variety of roadblocks into a genuinely thorough investigation into whether there had or hadn't been previous incidents similar to Dr. Nasser, either in USA Gymnastics or within sports more broadly. It is hard to believe that this is the only time that there's been a failing of this scale, given, Director Wray, what you just said about the 16,000 arrests. We all know that the horror of child sexual abuse is tragically far more widespread in this country and around the world than any of us would like to see. So first, Mr. Horowitz, do you think there is still a pressing need, and who would be the appropriate entity to conduct that? And what, if any, advice do you have for us on respecting her request to this committee?
It's a great question, Senator Coons. And frankly, as you indicated, the reason we couldn't do a report like this and other reports that we've been able to do is because of the statutory authorities that we've been given by the Congress that make us independent. And by the way, picking up on something Ms. Raceman said, which was very perceptive, about who's funding the oversight. As you know, back in 2008, we were given an independent budget line so that our budget is not coming from the Justice Department, but is being set by an independent appropriator. I don't know, as I sit here, frankly, what the oversight mechanisms are currently on USOC and the other entities, but actually one of the things I did have a chance to talk with Senator Blumenthal about during the break was the importance of, given what I'd heard from these gymnasts, the very issue you just mentioned, which is thinking about what is the right independent oversight mechanism of those bodies, which are not just private entities, right, these are organizations that have been sanctioned by Congress to oversee our U.S. athletes, and they need strong oversight as well. And I'm happy to work with you as well, Senator, and the committee in thinking about how to do that, because we are seeing the IG model replicated in many places, as you know, across the country, including many state and local entities.
I also, frankly, in the opportunities I've had to visit with legislatures and national assemblies in other countries, the absence of a comparable structure is often at the core of how government entities fail to be held accountable. Exactly and do I understand correctly, it's your testimony to us today, that the FBI director and the FBI broadly has embraced and is implementing the 4 major policy recommendations you made?
That's correct. Director Wray made that clear before he actually got the report, as he was telling us, he was waiting for this report and could take those actions, and he has certainly indicated to us, and we've gotten some information about the steps that have been taken. But, as he knows and as you all know, we will independently look at that. It won't just be the FBI's word for it. You will also have OIG oversight of it.
Last question for both of you, if I might. As you've gone back and reviewed this case, was there anything specific to the culture, the training, the promotion, the supervision, anything about the culture of these 2 specific field offices, Indianapolis in particular, that you think led to this shocking and uncharacteristic failure to follow even the most basic ethical and policy and procedural guidelines by the special agent in charge in this case.
I didn't, my agents pick up anything specific to the two offices as a cultural issue there. I will say, again, going back to the point that I mentioned with Senator Feinstein, what concerned me looking at this as a former prosecutor is the reluctance or the failure, because I'm not sure they really thought about it, of both these offices, one that did nothing, one that did something, to actually engage with their state and local partners. Yeah. And that is a mindset that needs to be changed. I know Director Wray believes that as well. But to see that in two offices, one of whom did actually do something, clearly followed up, was concerning.
I look forward to working to reauthorize the Victims of the Child Abuse Act and to work with you to ensure that federal and state and local law enforcement coordinates as effectively as possible, and that interviews of victims are conducted in a professional and appropriate and a supportive way. Thank you for your testimony today.